welcome on today's podcast episode, an accidental one. I hopped on a live call with Mark Siegel, a hypnotist, NLP practitioner, a mindset coach for entrepreneurs. Anything else that I left out, Mark?
Yeah, I call myself the personal mind trainer. So it kind of encapsulates everything all into that. The personal mind trainer for entrepreneurs to, grow a profitable business that you love. That's my intention, and seems to align with what you're doing for sure.
100%. So yeah, we just are hopping on this call for casual conversation about entrepreneurship, how to steer your mind through that, and just hop on in. I'm pretty sure you're going to have a lot of fun watching it. And with that being said, see you inside.
Tell me a little bit about you and what your background is and what your intention is for your community. I'm curious.
Yeah, sure. I definitely wanted to create a space for entrepreneurs where they can have peers to talk to, right? Because as I said in my beginning video, which was also, by the way, just a real quick MVP, just so people can watch something, right? It's not like perfectly crafted. The approach is like at that day, I barely get any sleep. The energy within it's not perfect. So all these things I don't believe really matter that much. It's just like getting things to an MVP point where the majority of things are going in the right direction, and then you can still play around with things. So for my community, I really wanted to have a space for entrepreneurs to actually provide help and feedback to one another. But I also aim to have different kinds of entrepreneurs in there, not only when it comes to the things that they do or the expertise that they have, also when it comes to the level, because I believe that it's really great for beginners to learn from the mistakes of other people. It's really great for other people to position themselves by giving advice if they can. It's really great to create a culture where all the people kind of put something, because let's say the latest generation, they might see things a completely different way, and they come in with this brand new approach, and then you can implement it into your old style or kind of thinking, especially if you might be targeting those kind of people. And yeah, intermediate people would just have the network and more resources, so they can have a course, for example, where there's like productivity tools, or mindset is also a big thing for sure, and I saw that you're heavy on that as well, which I love. I love your mission, by the way. It's really great to enhance minds, make them better, help people get out of their own way. That's really amazing. So yeah, that's the general idea. But then also I would like to have like mentors in there where they're further ahead, or they already reached a really high ceiling, or level at least, and then they're curious about, hey, what's going on, what's happening in the entrepreneurial world, where's some new possibilities to jump in. And I'm looking to structure it in such a way that everybody has one of those things available to them, like an online course about how to start your business, resources to enhance yours, and the community to help each other grow faster, and the third one, which would be the networking effect for high level people. And then eventually I aim at branching out and creating a paid community, because obviously it's like an energy exchange and I'm putting my energy into this. So it would be cool if I make money from a bigger group. So that's no real secret there. But honestly, it's a close thing to my heart to help others realize their ideas. Right. And
Right.
I'm not even worried if this thing explodes within a short amount of time. I'm happy to put some effort and money into it to make it a beautiful space.
Yeah, that's cool. I really align with that, and that's, I think, what attracted me to even join your site and reach out to you. And I'm glad to connect like this, because to me, the entrepreneurial mindset, the entrepreneurial spirit is, that's key to like so many things, more even than just a business. It's like, it's a mindset, literally, and I've gotten certified in a program that's just on the entrepreneurial mindset, amongst other things. But, when people take that and they apply that mindset towards a business of their own, because most people, whether they state it this way or not, they're looking for some sort of autonomy in their life, even if they have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of successful companies, your background reminds me of a company called Mind Valley. I don't know if you've ever done any of their stuff, but, they have a lot of people that have, they live in places like your background.
Yeah.
And, so it's all about autonomy, and, and in America, people want freedom. They want, they want to be in control of their life and their time. And, a job is usually the opposite of that, answering to someone else, like maybe a step above slavery, but not
Hmm.
not a big step,
Hmm.
in some cases. I've had people like, oh, well, I'd love to do this, but I have to go to work. I'm like, pardon my language, but you don't have to do shit. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
get to go to work,
Mhm.
and you do that in exchange for some money that they give you, usually
Mhm.
not as much as you would want for your time. So,
Mhm.
I mean, to me, that's the entrepreneurial mindset. And I sum that up with, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Yeah,
You
love that.
know, that's really that kind of go-getter mindset.
Mhm.
And then the flip side of that is go giver, because the true entrepreneur wants to, like you're saying, you want to help other people with their business,
Mhm.
and that's really what I love. I want to help 200,000 people start and or grow a business, right?
Awesome.
Which is big and bold. And why that number? Because in 2008 to 2010 in the United States, 200,000 businesses went bankrupt for no good reason,
Mhm.
you know, and it wasn't even their fault per se, because it was the banks, and the government and the banks caused it to happen. It
Mhm.
was highly avoidable, but people were unprepared for that, and it's a shame that it happened. And the families of these entrepreneurs are the ones that really suffered, because, like, why does someone start a business? You know?
Is it a question?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
I made
usually,
it kind of a statement, but then yeah, it is a question actually.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, sure. Well, I believe I'm aligned with what you're saying. I think a lot of people just get to a point where they realize that they live in actual slavery. For some people, it just isn't. It's to put their trust in. It's not about putting their trust in others, but putting their trust in a faceless entity that doesn't guarantee you, as you put it, shit, right? And some people just wake up to the fact and they're like, holy shit, it's on me. If it's up to me, it's up to me, right? So they wake up to this realization and then they just realize, like, a sense of urgency kicks in, because they know the only person that can change their life is themselves. And once that urgency, once that hard realization, which you also talk about, like realizing, okay, where the fuck am I right now? Just like not a good or a bad situation, just like a what it is situation, accepting that, realizing that, and then seeing, okay, how the fuck can I get out of this shit if it's not the thing that you want, right? So I think that kicks a lot of people into entrepreneurship, and yeah, just wanting to either sustain themselves, sustain their family, help themselves, help their family, and ideally, like, all of these things together. And then also there's the creative part of it, which is like creativity. Artists are a very special breed of entrepreneurs, I would say, work very differently mind-wise, sometimes extremely chaotic in their approach, which makes them also great, right? And I think I would consider myself one of those people. I have interest in music. I love to sing. I'm generally very creative. Not that I express it enough, but it is deep down inside of me and a big part of myself. So I had this like chaotic approach, but that came also from not being taught like proper mindset, which I don't blame anyone for that, but it's just a fact that I realized for myself, like, I didn't know what confidence meant, what self accountability meant, like how to discipline, like all these things. I had to kind of learn from scratch, but then also all of that with like a very chaotic like brain. So I developed my online course about how to start a business. Was basically at first kind of like a how-to guide for myself that I can go
Right.
back to and kind of see, okay, this is actually the things that I should implement at situation X, right? So yeah, and I just want to I just want to give that framework that worked for me to other people to really drastically change their lives. And mindset obviously is a very big part of this. And I love that you specialize in this, because some people appreciate that highly. Others are more like, okay, I just want the facts. How do I start my business? So there's the two sides of it, and I try to kind of wave in mindset into actual, very, like, here's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that you can go down to. So that's to go back to your question. That's the thing that I believe is kicking people into overdrive and becoming an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you touched on a lot of things that, I definitely agree with, that they started because they're stuck on some level, right? They're either stuck in some situation that they don't want to be in.
Mhm.
They want to get out of that, and they want to be able to express their creativity, like you were talking about, which can sometimes be chaotic, And then, did you ever read the book called The E-Myth?
I haven't. I haven't.
Okay. I'm not recommending the book because I can give you the whole book in like a couple of sentences.
Okay. All right.
At least from my perspective. I mean, I don't know, maybe if you read it, you'd get something different, but I read the whole book and this is what I
Mhm.
got from it is that there's three hats of a business person, right?
Mhm.
Business owner. So there's the mechanic, there's that person who's like really good artist, right? And they just want to have their own business doing whatever their creative endeavor is, right?
Mhm.
And that could be anywhere from actually doing paintings to making music to um, furniture,
Mhm.
any kind of craft or art or something skill that they use their hands or even their mind, but
Yeah.
creative endeavor, right? So they're really really good at that, and they're undervalued doing it for someone else,
Mhm.
so they want to go out and do it on their own,
Mhm.
right? So that's the hat that he calls the mechanic. So they're really good at the doing,
Mhm.
right? They're really good at the creating. They're really good at the hands-on. They're really a hard worker, very dedicated, good work ethic, and they go out and they do, right? When someone like that starts a business, though, they're what I would call self-employed.
Mhm.
So they don't really own a business. And this kind of like creates a cliche that I play with a lot is that they built a business around themselves that became a machine that they're now trapped inside of. Because if they don't show up for work, they're not in business that day.
Mhm.
If they don't make music, then no one makes music that day. So
Mhm.
maybe they're a solopreneur, maybe they have a team working with them, small team, or maybe even several
Mhm.
employees. But like if they don't show up, the doors don't open for business that day, or at least not to the degree that it would if they did show up, right?
Yeah.
So that
Mhm.
that's the mechanic.
Mhm.
The second hat is the manager. They're really good at managing people and relationships and creating systems and managing the systems and making sure that everyone they don't actually do the work, but they're good at getting other people to do the work,
Mhm.
right? So that's a little step up in terms of owning a business because now they can get the other people doing the work. They can go to lunch and stuff still gets done, you know?
Mhm.
Um, Ideally they want to set it up where it's professionalized so that they don't have to micromanage everybody, but at least there's someone paying attention that everybody's getting done what they need to get done, right? The level above that, which is the true entrepreneur, is the person that loves to start a business, loves to grow a business, and then they get bored with it and they want to go into the next thing. So
Mhm.
they like that initial phase. And really, the entrepreneur can start a business because it's the idea that they're starting. They don't have to be involved. I mean, they could be involved in any one of the three hats or all of them even, but ideally as the entrepreneur, they built a business that's saleable, right? So the business is not dependent upon them showing up to work.
Mhm.
So, for a lot of people that I work with that I coach, that's kind of the ideal outcome is to build a business that they could sell. They may never ever even have an idea that they want to sell it,
Mhm.
but if they build the business that they could sell it, now what can they do? They can go on vacation and not have to worry if they're going to be out of business when they come back from vacation,
Mhm.
that everything's still running. I mean, the business might even grow while they're away. It's
Mhm.
not dependent upon them at all. They could still show up every day. They could still love what they do. They could still be excited about the business and get involved in the real creation of the business, not the creativity within the business, right?
Mhm.
So, like for myself, I love music, right? So, like for me to own a business with music, it would be great. I would love to go in and
Mhm.
witness all the music being created, and I do play drums, but I just hit.
Oh, nice. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
you know, it's
Cool.
like my son plays saxophone, so I definitely appreciate the
Oh,
melodic
wonderful.
part of music, and he's really awesome at like improvising and stuff that I have like no clue how he does this, but it's he does it. And so, I have an appreciation for it. Like, but as far as like, you know, being able to work the mixing board, being able to,
Mhm.
know how to create harmonies and stuff like that, that I don't know,
Mm.
right? But I could own a business with that as an entrepreneur, not necessarily as, as a mechanic in it. So when you look at that, there's those three different levels of someone starts a business. Why are they starting it? What's their intention? So that's where I kind of get
Mhm.
into the mindset behind it. But then I go one step bigger than that is, the question that I asked you, why do people start a business, right? So they're starting a business not just for the sake of having a business or not, like we work, why? Because we want to make money. We make money, why? Because we want to have some sort of lifestyle. We want to live in a beautiful place like your background or
Mhm.
wherever it is that people want to live. That's, we want to have, all aspects of our life. We want to have a partner. We want to have a family potentially. We want to live in a beautiful place. We want to be able to travel. We want to have nice things. We want to, have good friendships, good family relationships. We want to be spiritual. We want to be, we want to grow mentally, physically,
Mhm.
on all levels, and and have fun and recreation in our life, so like, and be healthy, right? That's the other thing that I was leaving out, to be healthy, right? So
Mm.
we want to, be healthy, we want to be wealthy, and we want to have great relationships.
Mhm.
Those are the three big ones.
Mm.
So when people create a vision of that for your life, right? Then the business is a part of that, but the business is really the part that fuels all of that to be possible, right?
For sure. I definitely agree. I definitely agree that there's different stages to it. And the earlier that people realize that they have to take themselves out of the equation, the better. And I would definitely consider myself one of the latter, the entrepreneur, because I really, but that's also at the same time, it's a very, very thin and tricky line. You need to have systems in place that ensure that things get done. Because if you're an entrepreneur with no systems, you just end up jumping from one thing to one thing to the other, right? And
Right.
if you don't know how to actually bring things into fruition, you also fail on gaining momentum. So yeah, I would say a very like an advanced part for in entrepreneurship, but developing systems. Well, actually, if it comes to that, in the very beginning, when you kind of go down that route, you kind of create systems for yourself, like habits, routines, all these kind of things. And I mean, the same thing just needs to be applied to business. But yeah, definitely love the health wealth relationship foundation. I believe that things can definitely be in balance for a while. But in order to kind of, nurture the soul, all of these things should work. So what is, generally speaking, your, because I'm very curious about like mental coaching. And do you know, for sure, do you know Billions, the TV series?
I don't watch a lot of TV. No, I just saw something about that though. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, probably healthier to not watch too many videos. Well, Billions is a show where it's about a fund hedge fund manager. And it's very like over the top, and just shows insights on how a greedy corporation like this kind of works, right? But then there's one kind of mindset coach, and that's her name is Rhodes something. Rhodes is the last name, and she kind of so all these VC guys go in there, all these traders, and their performance. She's a performance coach basically, on a mental level, right? So they enter the room, and they're like, "Oh, it's just not working, and like my trades, like consistently, I'm not getting as many as much as much return as I should, and I don't know what's happening." And then she just picks them up real quick and says, "Hey, listen," and like really activates that self belief, and says, "Hey, listen, have you done this in the past? Yes, you have. So why on earth are you going to come in here now, telling me all of this? You know that you're an absolute machine. Why are you even doubting yourself?" Like kind of this kind of approach, like very rough in your face, like
Right.
football coach kind of style. And I kind of love the idea of connecting with people that not have necessarily the same approach, but like getting the benefits of somebody that can say, "Hey, listen, I know, like." helping that self-actualization. Like, I know what you're capable of, like obviously showing you where mistakes might have been made, but like clearing the way with all the stuff that you put in your own mental path over the course of the day or the weeks, because things might not work out or something. Just like helping out clearing that vision and deleting roadblocks from your life or mentality in order to, be fruitful in what you do. So
Right.
cool topic.
So that ties in with one of the programs that's going to be on my school is based on my program and my book is Designing the Ultimate You. So the 6 steps are create a vision, right? So that's the direction that you want to go in, which includes all 10 areas of life and business, right? So that's the big picture vision. The second part is to release the brakes, all those things that are holding people back, all those limitations, limiting decisions, limiting beliefs that they have, doubts and fears and worries and anxieties and overwhelms and all that stuff that kind of gets in the way of them just doing what they need to do, right? So they can release the brakes. So that's kind of like unlocking the chain that was in the pole that was like 30 feet down into the ground.
Oh yeah.
As much as they stepped on the gas, they're not going anywhere unless they break that chain or unlock it. So it's like, okay, they know what direction they're going in. They release the brakes, and now they can start moving. Right. The next part is to fine tune the steering, which is their decision strategy. So most people don't even realize that they have a decision strategy because it's subconscious. Right. So there's a whole bunch of books out there on how to make decisions, but they're all conscious methods, right? I guide them through discovering what your unconscious decision strategy is. That works perfectly if you use it. The problem is most people don't use it or they bypass it, and they're not even aware of it. So fine-tuning that steering and then having conscious awareness that they used it, so I relate it to like, how like when you transfer a file on the computer, it shows like that the files are jumping from one folder to the other, and it's like this little animated thing. That's not the actual files moving. It's just a like a GIF, that's illustrating that, right? So that's kind of what I help people do, is to have that kind of illustration consciously that their unconscious mind use their perfectly good strategy. Right. So when they're making good decisions, now that's the steering. Do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I go right? Do I go left? Do I go up? Do I go down? Do I move forward? Do I back up a little bit? Or do I stand still and wait for a moment? So all of those are decisions, right? And those decisions are based upon the questions that we ask ourselves. So, that's the third step in that. And the fourth is creating a plan of action, which is the GPS. It's the exact route they're going to take to get there. So it's looking at all the different areas of their life and the different goals related to that. And then I have a way of kind of shaping that into what I call projects, so that they're not overwhelmed with goals. And a lot of it is kind of like set it and forget it. A lot of people take their goals and they write them down, they put it in front of themselves and they affirm it every day. And there's value to that. But I like to do it in combination with the subconscious mind, where they can take a goal and kind of plant it in their future and create what I call future memory. And then, like the same way you'd remember something from the past, you travel back into your past to visit that memory. They're traveling into the future to visit the future memory.
So kind of like quantum
kind of
jumping.
living into it, because it's if you say, okay, in 2 years from now, I'm going to be a millionaire, right? Then, okay, and you have all of the aspects of that, what you'd see when you're there, what you'd feel when you're there, what you're hearing, what you're saying to yourself, and you can picture it as if it's real, like you're remembering something from the past, but you're remembering it into the future on a specific date and time and situation, right? Then your subconscious mind goes to work to make that memory true. So that's kind of like living into a future memory. And that's based upon a plan of action. And the cool thing about the subconscious mind is the plan of action is really not to be necessarily the route, right? So like in the old day, and you look a bit younger than me, quite a bit younger than me, but I don't know if you ever used a paper map or not, but nowadays we have GPS, right? So no
Yeah.
one uses the
Yeah.
paper map. But in the old days, you had a paper map, but the paper map was history,
Hmm.
right? I mean, now they're like really history, but I mean,
Yeah.
even back in the day, a brand new map was historical. It was like this was a snapshot of the way the roads were. They may still be that way, but this is a snapshot when they created the map. It's how the roads were at the time when they created the map.
Hmm.
It's frozen in time,
Hmm.
right? And it's static, it's not dynamic. A GPS, and I like this analogy of the GPS, it's dynamic, right? If you make a wrong turn, it doesn't make you go all the way back to the beginning and start over again. It recalculates based upon where you are because it knows the destination you want to get to.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like the mindset is to have that mental GPS. So even though you create a plan, the subconscious mind is going to go to work and create the plan.
Hmm.
So it's going to come up with a faster way for you to get there. It's going to come up with a better way for you to get there. It's going to come up with a more enjoyable way of accomplishing everything along the way. It's just
Mm.
that's the way the mind works. It's efficient, right?
That's actually a really, 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 really great point. The So one of the things that was a topic for me recently was stepping back from my day to day and kind of like seeing, okay, what of these things actually work? Because while I'm a firm believer that a vision, and that's actually one of the first thing that I explain in my course, my free course and the paid course as well, is actually what do you want out of life? Right, kind of get really deep down, like what are the things that drive you, getting to your deep desires and your core motivators, right? So you uncover those to get a better understanding of who you are, and then you kind of reflect back to, okay, what is the thing that I'm currently doing, and is it aligned with who I want to be and how want to live my life? So also kind of like forward projecting. But then if you set your plan to do this and go down that road for quite a while, and I mean it's not only very possible, it's highly likely that well, I don't want this to be limiting belief, verbally, but from experience and from what I see out there, is that it's highly likely that it's going to take a while until you get all the elements right that lead you to success, right? And then some people, they give up because they just don't see results yet. Partly this could be because they don't celebrate the milestones and just want the success, like the big house is built, instead of celebrating every brick that gets built on the path and the way there. Also, something that I've been working on in the past, taking a step back from the things that you tried, right? So it's necessary to go down a certain road for quite a while to see results, gain momentum, all these things. Now, once you've done that for a while, at some point there should be a way for you to analyze, okay, are the things that I'm doing actually working? Not just through sheer analysis, but also to, yeah, just to step away and see, okay, am I just doing the things because I learned to do the things? And so I stepped back from some ideas that were really close to my heart, but weren't really working that well. I stepped away from the idea, well, this has to be my life path now. And I kind of reset myself. I kind of brought myself back to the exercise of, okay, what do I want out of life? And also kind of detaching myself from the identity of, let's say, like a creator of like a specific business, or this specific outcome. So I kind of detached myself from it, and I said, okay, now if I let all of this go, who am I? And what's important in my life? What are the things that I need in order to live a joyful life, or like a fulfilled life? To be happy with the path that I'm currently on. And would I be happy to continue down that path for like 10 more years in order to get to the results that I want? And that really worked wonders for me. Just this letting go moment kind of like helped me refocus my energy. I kind of called back my mental energy from all these things that I put them to. And and not even a day or two later, um, the way kind of reshaped itself, and it was very, very similar to the one that I was walking on before. But just the detachment from it gave me a very and realizing, okay, it is actually the path that I want to walk on. I'm happy with going down that path and all the learnings that occur on the way. That it gave me more energy and renewed sense of energy and excitement for the things that I'm actually achieving on a day-to-day basis. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So and that's again, that's like that dynamic map, right? The GPS. It's like you can change the route that you take to get there, even though the destination is still the same.
Mm,
Like there's a bunch of different roads to get you to the same place, literally, right?
mm,
One might be the quickest way, but that might be like this highway that's, basically concrete, right?
mm,
Or there could be another way that's a little bit longer, but it's this beautiful scenic road through the woods and along a
mm,
lake. And,
mm,
you get something good to look at while you're driving. And it depends upon like, am I in a rush to get there or do I want to enjoy the trip getting there? Right. So,
mhm.
these are all things that factor into the decisions that we make that guide the journey. Right.
How do you do that actually? How do you stay fluent in this approach? Because it was just by accident that I stepped back from this, and I need to actually remember to use it as a system to kind of do this more regularly. But how do you actually implement it that so that it becomes a normal thing to do to kind of reshape the path so you don't get stuck?
Right. So the six parts of the journey that I guide people to, I'm actually teaching you a system of how to use your mind. So I'm guiding you through the process. We're using some content, but really what I'm teaching you on a deeper level is the context, right?
Mhm.
And it really all comes down to your decision strategy, right? Because like you said, you stopped and you decided to reevaluate.
Mhm.
And then you made a decision to keep doing what you were doing, but with a different kind of mindset around it, and maybe even a slightly adjusted objective of how
Mm,
you were doing it, right? So that's that thing. It's not static. It's not, a lot of people they say, well, I'm going to grow a business and I'm going to do it this way, and then they start, right? But the mindset where they started is not the mindset where they're at halfway there. They've learned a lot of hopefully they've learned some stuff, right? Some
mm,
really good stuff.
mm,
And now they see business differently. They see their business differently. They know what they like and don't like about it, right? They know what they should be delegating to others and what they're really good at that they would never delegate, you know? So these are all decision points along the way that you can't predict from the very beginning. So it has to be a dynamic map because you're not the same person you were when you started the journey, right? A static map works fine if everything doesn't change, but things change. We live in a dynamic world and we're dynamic within that dynamic world. So
mm,
that's where it that level of flexibility. So to just finish up the six-step process, the fifth one is about state of mind. So that's the Tony Robbins stuff. I'm excited, I'm pumped, I'm motivated, I'm
mhm,
enthusiastic, I'm driven, I'm
mhm,
hard work, I'm focused,
mhm,
but then also adding in other states like I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I'm at peace, you know, I have clarity, so it's those intense states and those mellow states. My favorite combination of putting it together is what I call calm enthusiasm.
mhm,
So it's to be enthusiastic, but you don't have to be like over the top and yelling. And, you get these
mhm.
guys that, they're the motivational speakers. And it's like, okay, dude, stop yelling at me,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I get it. You can tell me, but and that's kind of like going back to what you were talking about before is like this woman that would come in and say, hey, get your shit together, you're good at this, do it, and like she would do that. What I do in what I call the circle of excellence, right, which is this fifth step, is the circle of excellence, is creating those ideal states based upon the fact that you can't want a state that you've never had before,
Mhm,
right? At least not as far as a single state, but then you can create unique combinations of it, right? So you can have calm enthusiasm. You can have peaceful motivation. You can have driven focus, right? And combine these together in unique ways that are different than any one on its own,
mm,
right? And the way that I do that is by guiding people through those memories of times when they have done it. So like you were talking about this guy who's like, I can't trade, I can't trade, I can't trade. Well, you've done this, right?
Mm.
And then what I would do is I would have them hypnotically what's called revivification. It's a tough
Mhm.
word to say. But basically they're remembering everything about when they
Mm.
did their best trade.
Mm.
So it's bringing up this ideal state. It's how they see the computer. It's how they feel their hands on the keyboard. It's what they're thinking in their mind, what they're saying to themselves, you know, what they feel it's going to do for them, where they feel it in their body, even, you know. So it's this 3D full sensory experience
Mhm.
that's stored in a memory of their perfect trade. Then what they can do is they can set it up with a pre-hypnotic suggestion that, hey, when I pull my ear, it puts me in that state.
Mhm.
Now they sit down to trade, and what I would do is do multiple triggers. So when they sit down at their desk, boom, that state's fired off. When they pull their ear, boom, that's fired off. When they look at the computer screen, boom, it's fired off, right?
Mm. Mm.
I did this with a lawyer that
Mhm.
lost an important case, and then he dropped all his confidence because he was a criminal defense lawyer
Mm.
working with people that were like, you know, going to go to jail for life because of
Mm.
murder or something like that, and they
Mm.
were innocent. So if he didn't prove them innocent, they were going to jail for a crime they didn't commit. So there was a lot of pressure on him, and he lost the case, and there was no repeal on it. So it crushed him. He had no confidence in himself. But then I had him think about all the cases that he did win and fired them off one after another, and then found out all the things that triggered the negative state in him. And I reversed those and installed the positive state.
Mm.
And then he went back to winning like virtually 100% of his cases again. So that's the power of state of mind. I mean, that's really everything that Tony Robbins does is create that state of mind, but it's based around his events, you know? So people want those good feelings, and the
Mhm.
only way to get those good feelings is come to the next event and the next event, the next
Mm.
event. He gets them
Interesting.
addicted to his events, you know?
Mm.
But the sixth element is really what you were asking about, and that's the resiliency.
Mhm.
Okay, so I get thrown a little bit. How do I get back on track automatically? How do I put myself on autopilot, like like a um a homing missile?
Mhm.
I forget what they call it, but those missiles that have like tracking systems. It's not just a missile that's shot at something, but
Mm.
if the object moves, it moves. It's like it's got a camera on it to see where the object's going,
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
it's
think it's
tracking
homing
it, right?
missiles. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of like you become that for your outcome,
Mhm.
right?
Mm. Okay, I
So
love
the
that.
outcome
Yeah,
moves, the target
yeah,
moves a little bit, the
yeah,
economy shifts, or
yeah,
something happens, or
yeah.
that girl gets away, or, you know, like you adjust your plan based upon
Mm.
what's actually happening. So
Mm.
the way I say it is, okay, so, you know, step one, you got a vision, you know what direction you're heading, right? You release the brakes so you can start moving forward. You fine tune the steering so you can like turn it on a dime, right? You know, you got that fine tuned, you know, Ferrari going 200 miles an hour down the road. You got the GPS program so you know the route you're going to take to get there, right? You got
Mm.
the rocket fuel in so you're going 200 miles an hour down the
Mhm.
Autobahn, right?
Mhm.
And but then all of a sudden there's a giant boulder in the middle of the road. What do you do besides say, "Oh shit," right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but you prepared for that in advance because you said, you know what, there could be a boulder in the middle of the road, or the road could be closed, or the road could be blown up, or whatever. So I'm going to prepare for whatever could happen. I'm going to have really good steering to get around it. I'm going to have a drill to tunnel underneath it. I'm going to have wings that pop out, and I'm going to fly over it, right?
Mm.
Or my favorite, I'm going to have lasers on the front that just blast the thing the fuck out of the way,
Mhm.
and I keep going, right? I don't even
Mhm.
have to slow down. So the thing is, most people know what's going to trip them up before they start, right? Like
Mhm.
I had this guy. He was actually a stockbroker, but like an independent broker, right?
Mm.
Not a big hedge fund guy, but you know, regular day to day broker, you know.
Mm.
Um, but he was, you know, his clients got older. Some of them passed away. Some of them, moved on to other things. Some of them weren't really actively trading anymore. So he needed new clients. And
Mhm.
when you ask anyone at that time in the industry, what do you do to get new clients? They say, well, you got to hit the phone and you got to start making cold calls and just,
Mm.
it's a numbers game, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Right. And he said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get more clients. I'm just not willing to make cold calls.
Okay.
So he put up this wall in front of himself that he
Yeah.
knew he had to get beyond that wall.
Yeah.
Right. So the cool thing was we did hypnosis so that he was willing to do whatever it take, including making the cold calls.
Mm.
Right. Because first of all, he was asking himself the wrong questions. What if they say no?
Mhm.
Right. That's the wrong question. Right. And my favorite saying that I came up with is if you ask the wrong questions, the answers don't matter.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's really, life is choice, but our choice is based upon the questions that we're asking ourselves.
Mhm.
Right. Right. So the choices go left or right. But the question before that is, should I go left or right?
Mhm.
Or what direction should I go?
Mhm.
Right. Should I go left, right, straight, forward, backward, up, down? Right. So which direction should I go? That's the question that precedes it. And that's a good question. A great question would be, how will going right make me even more successful?
Mm.
Right. So that's like a more targeted question. And
Mm.
then we have to start to justify the answer to that. Right.
Mm.
That directionalizes your thinking. Right. So anyhow, so he was willing to do whatever it took, including even making the cold calls.
Mhm.
And in the next week between sessions, he got $2 million worth of business.
Nice.
So I said, how many cold calls did you make? And he goes, none.
Mhm.
But it's because he was willing to make the cold calls that he removed those obstacles,
Mhm.
and his mind was now open to however it came to him
Mhm.
energetically, right?
Awesome.
And he had someone refer someone to him. He had an old client come back to him. He met someone at an event that he happened to be at that just happened to be looking for something. And then they gave him an initial investment. And then before the end of the week, they gave him more money to invest, right? So this all unfolded without him making one cold call, but it was his willingness to make the cold call that he wasn't putting a block in front of himself.
Mhm.
So most people know what's going to trip them up. They're like, well, I need to do this, that, and the other thing, but I procrastinate.
Mm.
Right. So, if they procrastinate, it's not going to happen. Right. So the real obstacle is not doing the thing. The real obstacle is getting out of their own way. And why are they procrastinating? So to stay resilient, that, when they find themselves procrastinating, that triggers them to take action. So it kind of programs it to overcome itself.
Interesting. Mm, when it comes to procrastination, in in my experience, yeah, like procrastination, I think either it tells you that what you're doing is just not working because it's not recharging you energetically. Then also it works as kind of a way of and I try to question that when that happens within myself. And somebody asked me the question like, "Hey, do you think you might just be addicted to the feeling of shame and guilt?" Because that's essentially what procrastination triggers in most people, like guilt and shame. And you're like, okay, well, that's an interesting question. So then, you go deeper into the topic of self-love and all that kind of thing. But yeah, if you procrastinate, it's interesting that you say that you use it as a trigger, because me personally, sometimes get this situation like incredibly bad, so bad that my back is against the wall, and that I really like I sabotage myself to be in that position because I know once it's getting really bad, like I get triggered into work mode. And I do believe that's a very effective system, and a system that you can actually use for yourself consciously, sure, but it's also not the most healthy one. So when it comes to procrastination specifically, how would you go about releasing that block in a person?
Well, like you said, there's many reasons for the procrastination. So I can give you kind of generic answers. If you're asking for a specific one, we'd have to dive a little bit deeper into what's
Hmm.
behind it.
Hmm.
But generically, so procrastination, we're motivated by two things,
Hmm.
and then there's like a third one, which is a combination of the two, which is ideal. So the first one is away from pain, right? So in
Mhm.
any marketing, they say find out what's the pain point of your client, right?
Mhm.
Why? Because getting away from pain is urgent. You know, someone has a toothache, they don't say, someday, some way, somehow, I'm going to take something for that pain. No, they want to. They either take some pill, or they go to the dentist and they get the tooth fixed because it's painful, right?
Mhm.
Most people think that going to the dentist is painful, but when the pain in their tooth is more painful than the thought of getting it fixed by the dentist, then the threshold of pain is like, which pain is worse, right? So pain is a motivator of urgency, but there's no direction to it, right? So someone has a dream, a goal, a desire, something that's going to give them pleasure, happiness, fulfillment in life. That's got a definite direction to it, but no sense of urgency,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Someday, some way, somehow, I'm going to have this successful business and it's going to be great. And I'm going to live in this beautiful place and have this beautiful partner and a nice car. And we're going to be able to travel and like all, the whole dream, right?
Mhm.
It's a great thing. But we know that's not going to happen right now, today. That takes a little time to nurture and create that, right? To get there, you know? So the thing is, there's no urgency like, well, what I do today doesn't really matter in one sense, right? But it does. What we do every day matters because that's got the compound effect of getting us there,
Mhm.
right? But it doesn't feel like it matters as much as when we're in pain, you touch a hot stove, you don't sit there and contemplate the possibility of moving your hand off that stove. You move
Mhm.
it immediately, right?
Mhm.
But you see, my hand went back. If someone I love was standing behind me, I would have slapped them in the face, moving my hand off the hot stove. So I know I got to get my hand off that stove urgently, but I'm not paying attention to where my hand's going. It's just getting off the stove.
Mhm.
So the ideal is, if you think of like old school horse and buggy, right? They would have this carriage and there's a horse, right? And they would have a long pole with a carrot hanging in front of the horse, right? And the
Mhm.
horse would chase the carrot.
Mhm.
But after a while, the horse would say, "Hey, I've been chasing this carrot all day and I haven't gotten any closer to this freaking carrot, you know, like I give up."
Mhm.
Right. But then the driver also had a stick or a whip that he would hit the horse in the butt and the horse would
Mhm.
run away from the stick.
Mhm.
Right. So when you're watching this go across the horizon, you see this horse and carriage going along. You don't know what's motivating that horse. Is it running towards the carrot or away from the stick? And in reality, it's the combination of the two.
Mhm.
So that's where we build in this what I call propulsion system
Mhm.
of motivation, right? So again, that's what drives it. But what causes the procrastination in the first place is lack of one of those two elements. Either there's not enough pain where they are, right? Or they perceive that. So, in order to make any change in our life, even the greatest change in the world, it's not in your comfort zone right now. You have to change something about you or your life or your environment or what you do in order to get that dream outcome, right? So, it requires change on some level. And that change doesn't exist in your comfort zone. Most people like being in their comfort zone, comfortable, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's in the name, right?
Mhm.
So to get out of that comfort zone is uncomfortable. So if they perceive that that change is more uncomfortable than the pain of staying stuck where they are, which is comfortable on some level, but not sustainable, probably, because even the comfort zone is diminishing, it's fading away. So we're either rebuilding that comfort zone in a new way or we're stepping out of that comfort zone and growing and expanding,
Mhm.
right? So, but the procrastination comes from that fear of stepping out of that comfort zone, that I've got to do something different or something more or something in a different way or a
Mhm.
better way or,
Mhm.
I got to change who I am or how I think about what I'm doing,
Mhm.
right? So that's what drives that motivation to do it or not do it. And again, I call it hallucinating the wrong future.
Hmm.
So people don't take action on something because they're hallucinating. Well, if I do that, it's going to fail, right? So, do you like uncertainty or you like guarantees in life? That's a question,
Well, it depends. I would say,
right?
yeah, I would say uncertainty is interesting because if I know exactly how my life's gonna go, it's kind of boring. I think that's what makes fun in life interesting. And well,
Right.
certainty, yeah, no, I would stick with the first answer.
But if you stepped out of bed in the morning and you were uncertain if the floor was there or if the floor was solid or not, right? If you
Yeah,
looked down and it looked like there was no floor there,
yeah. Well, that would
and
bring
that level
fear.
of uncertainty of will I step out of bed and fall indefinitely or my feet will land safely on a floor,
Mhm.
right? That level of uncertainty freaks us out and would rather just stay in bed at that point,
Mm, mm,
right?
yeah.
So most people want certainty. So if you look at it that way, and this is kind of a twisted way of negative thinking, but
Mhm,
it's a mindset that's you know that creates procrastination, right? So
mhm,
if someone was they say, I could do all this stuff, put all this effort in to grow this great and wonderful business, but it might not succeed.
mhm,
That's a level of uncertainty that they're not willing to bet on. And who are they betting on? They're betting on themselves.
mm,
So it all stems from doubt in themselves and their ability to make it happen, right?
mhm,
So the easier choice is to do nothing, which guarantees failure.
mhm,
But failure in that instance is just being stuck in their comfort zone, which they think is going to stay the same, but we know is not because everything's changing all
mm,
the time, right? Nothing stays the same. Both of us right now are not in the same place in the universe that we were when we started this conversation because we're on a planet that's spinning, going around the sun, and that sun is moving within our galaxy, and the galaxy's moving within the universe. So we're
mhm,
we're probably like hundreds of thousands of miles from where we were when we started this conversation, quite
mm,
literally, if you were to locate us in
mm,
space and time, right?
mhm,
So nothing stays the same. And yet there's that illusion that I can stay here, I can be comfortable, and that's what keeps people in a job and what keeps people from starting their own business. Even though they say I get this great idea or I hate what like, how many people have you met in your life that hate what they do, like literally hate what they do, but they do it just because, like, well, I gotta do it, I gotta
mhm,
go to work, I gotta make money, I gotta put food on the table, I gotta pay the mortgage,
mm,
whatever it is. They've built this illusion that they have to, but really they're choosing to. And until they own that choice, they can't change it. And that comes back to full circle, the entrepreneurial mindset, right? If it is to be, it's up to me. But what's up to you is the choices that you make on any given moment, right? We both chose to get on this call, and I'm grateful for this. It's a cool
mm.
conversation, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Um, so, and I didn't know where the conversation would go, but I knew enough of what I saw in you that, okay, this could go some
Mm,
cool places. Let's
mm.
explore it. Worthwhile, right?
Mark, and it absolutely did. I had a lot of fun on this call. In fact,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the conversation so much that it actually very early on turned into a podcast. And I think I'm gonna turn it into one.
Hey, Alexander, this was freaking awesome. Really,
Same
really a
here.
pleasure meeting you. Okay.
Same here, Mark. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And we catch up on the via chat and on the next call.
Okay.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
A
Peace.
fantastic day. You too. Take care.